Good morning, happy January 5th, and welcome back to the Leaf Riders of Wrenwood, where we have just fallen through a hole in one of the rooms in the burrows that we heard some scratching and skittering underneath. We did our best to try and jump to safety, and we were able to make our fall less impactful, but we still did lose a little bit of health. Now we're about to see what's under there. But before we get into that, a quick note that I want to address. A commenter added a comment to my January 2nd video, noting that the Gust ability for Tak has actually received some errata from the creators of the game, and I want to fix that now. So the Gust ability currently reads, once per page, reroll any d20 plus wisdom roll and take the new result. But it was actually intended to say, once per page, reroll any d20 plus dexterity roll and take the new result. So I'm going to fix that and use the ability as it was intended from here on out. And while I'm getting ready to actually update the page here, I want to note that you may have already noticed the audio for this video is actually out of sync with the video, because when I recorded it, I apparently did not have my microphone on. So I am re-recording the audio afterwards. So apologies for that. But let's get into Friday, January 5th, 2024. So this is, in World, this is Fruits Day, Deep Winter, and it notes that it's 12th night. And as we can see from the image, we've got a lot of sets of eyes. We've got some insect creatures. This does not look good, but I think we understand what the skittering and scratching was all about. All right, let's go ahead and read the passage. So you find yourself in a long tunnel that seems to run endlessly in either direction. At one end, glowing eyes begin to reveal ugly and dangerous insects. They chatter and chirp as they rush after you with sharp claws and weapons. And then there's a box afterwards that describes how combat works. So this is our first combat. So I'll briefly go over the basic rules of combat. I'm not going to say everything. But as you can see, I'm pointing at the 3 rolls there. So each round of combat will typically be against one enemy. And in that round, you make 3 rolls. So you make an attack roll, which is a d20 plus your attack for your character, which for Tak, that is 2. Your damage roll is just based on whatever weapon, again, your character is using. So for Tak, that is a d8. And then your defense roll, which is a d20 plus your defense. And our defense is, once again, plus 2 for Tak. The way each round works is you roll your attack. You make all 3 rolls. And then you look at the back of the previous page to see what each enemy, to see their stats. So each enemy is going to have 5 values. They're going to have their defense. If you roll higher than their defense or equal their defense, you hit. Otherwise, you miss. If you hit, you look at your damage roll and compare that to their health, which is their second stat. If your damage is greater than or equal to their health, you kill them. Otherwise, you still damage them, but they get to attack you in return. And that's where your defense roll comes in. So if your defense is greater than or equal to their attack, then you take less damage, what they call partial damage. Otherwise, you take full damage. So that's how combat works. The book does note, or the rules do note, that you have a choice in how difficult you want your combat to be. So there is standard difficulty, which is that you make all rolls for a single round before deciding whether or not you want to use any modifiers. There is hard difficulty, which is you have to make decisions about modifiers after each individual roll. And there is easy difficulty, which is you can make all rolls for the entire combat before deciding whether or not to use any modifiers. I'm going to go ahead and follow the standard difficulty for combat because it is presumably what they kind of designed the experience around, so that's what I want to go with. So without further ado, I believe Video Me should also be getting ready to start rolling for the round here. One thing to note while we're waiting for that, I did, while I was kind of talking throughout all this, look at the art to try and see if there was any backpacks to get to loot for some extra treasure, but I didn't see any, so I'm hoping I didn't miss any. But it felt like this was probably the first chance we had to potentially find some treasure. None of the other rooms really, or pages, felt like it made sense for there to be treasure there. Similarly, I don't think there was much chance for looting in this room or the previous one. Okay, so we're rolling our attack roll here. All right, so we rolled pretty well here, which is great. I believe it was a 13, if I remember correctly. And so we get to add our attack to that, which is a 15. So we're about to fill that out here. So we put that in the attack box, and that determines whether or not we hit the monster. And the monster stats for this combat are different for each insect. Insect 1 has a defense of 9, so that means we do hit. So now we get to roll our damage roll. And that was a 6. So their health is 4, so that means we did in fact kill them before they got to attack us. But I'm still going to roll defense just to fill out the chart because, as I said, with standard difficulty for combat, you still fill out the whole chart before you actually, resolve it for that given insect. So we rolled an 8 on the die, adding our +2 modifier gives us a 10 total for defense. But that ends up not being relevant because we kill enemy 1. So now it is time for enemy 2, which is insect 2. It has a defense of 11, a health of 3, an attack of 10, standard damage of 2, and partial damage of 1. So let's go ahead and roll our attack here. Alright, we also rolled very well. This is a 15 on the die. So we add our +2 modifier for 17 for the attack. So again, this means we get to hit. So now we are going to roll our d8 damage. Oh, and we rolled a 6 again. So that's great. So again, we do know that we will kill this one, but we'll still roll our defense. So we do all of our rolls for the round. And our defense roll was a 6, not very good. But we get to add +2 for our defense modifier, which puts us to an 8. Luckily, that doesn't matter because we do in fact kill insect 2. And now for insect 3. It has defense of 10, health of 4, attack of 12, standard damage of 2, and partial damage of 1. So this one hits pretty hard, so we really want... It doesn't hit harder, I guess. It is more likely to hit. So let's roll our attack and hope we kill it here. Alright, so that is a 9 on the die. So when we add our modifier, that is an 11, which does hit. This is the closest one so far, but it does hit. So we really need to try and hit at least 4 damage here so that we kill this guy. So we are going to roll. And, oh, we hit exactly 4. So there we go. So we do kill it. But once again, we will roll our defense for completionist's sake. And we had a pretty good defense roll here of 16. So when we add our modifier, that becomes 18. Alright, so we were able to kill all 3 of the insects and take no damage, which is great. A lot more successful than we were yesterday. And the back of the page says, if you killed 3 enemies, collect a d4 plus 1 amber. So we get to kind of loot their corpses here. So let's roll our d4 and see how much we get. Alright, that is a 3 on the die. So we get to add 1 to that. So let's erase our 2 for amber here and go up to 6 total. Which, that is great. These insects should have known better than to attack Redwind. Alright, there we go. Oh, I did not draw that 6 very well. Yeah, okay, I'm correcting that. A more legible 6 here. Alright. So that was our first combat. So now we've seen how that goes. It obviously went pretty well. We didn't even have to use any of our abilities, notably the Gale Strike, which would have used our Surge. And that would have let us add a D4 to a single damage roll. So that would have been nice, especially on that last one, if we hadn't done quite enough to kill it. Let's say we'd only rolled a 2 or 3. We also didn't use any of our potions. Now we only have one right now, which is the Combat Tonic. Now, this is actually something else that has received errata. When I was looking for the errata earlier, I also noticed that these have been errataed as well. So all three of these combat boosters actually are only for a single roll. So right now in the book, they say consumed on use, add a d4 to all damage rolls on a page. But in fact, they have been errataed to say consume on use adds plus d4 to a single damage roll or attack roll. So I'm going to make a little note on there to remind myself of that, so I don't forget in the future and accidentally use them as they're written in the book, which would be significantly stronger. And then I realized that the warding ointment is actually phrased a little bit differently in the book. It doesn't involve a die roll at all. It says consumed on use and add +2 defense for the page rather than rolling. So I look it up to confirm that that one is in fact also been errataed, which it has. It is similar to the other two. It is consumed on use, and you add a d4 to a single damage roll on a page. And I'm kind of figuring out how I want to write that here. There we go. So good to have that fixed, but very nice that we didn't have to use it this time. It's good to know in the future, though. I mean, adding a d4 to an attack roll, meaning, you hit instead of miss, can be just a huge change, can kind of swing a combat. So we'll definitely have to remember that we have those for times that we roll poorly during combat. All right. Well, I'm sorry for the post-produced voice coverage, but thank you so much for watching, and until tomorrow, have a great day.